Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
Hi, this is Ed Cohen, and I'm in San Diego, and our special guest today is Elizebeth Varghese, and she's in New York City. She's been on our program a couple of times, and so Elizebeth has a day job at IBM, and she's a senior talent and technology executive, and I'm going to introduce her now, and she's going to be able to do a lot better job than me introducing herself. Hello, Elizebeth, and welcome.
Hey, Ed, how are you? Happy New Year. So
Great.
good to be back.
And to you. So I didn't say your official title correctly. So why don't you just tell us exactly what you do at IBM?
Sure. So I work in the consulting business. So basically in IBM Consulting, and I lead our client offerings. So basically I do client-facing work in the space of talent and technology and HR transformation. So I really work at the intersection of people and technology and help organizations solve problems around, finding the best talent, figuring out the best technology and organization models to use, and, make decisions around insourcing, outsourcing, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, okay. So you've done a lot of research into technology, and you've written a new book. Could you hold up the book cover, please?
Sure.
Okay, great. So blockchain reaction, and the block is sort of in parens. So blockchain is a mechanism, a multi-layered mechanism whereby people can share one set of data rather than mix and match and try to find it in different places. What is a better explanation of blockchain? And then go into how it will solve problems.
Sure. So blockchain is technology, right? It's a way of harnessing technology and data using code and algorithms. And think of it as a way or a platform to exchange information in a much more validated and accurate way. I like to use the analogy of Lego blocks, right? So think of how we construct Lego blocks one on top of another, and they fit together really nicely, right? Blockchain uses a similar concept in that it's using these different hashes to touch each other and build on each other, so that the history of a transaction or a data change is actually maintained in that chain. That's why we think about it as a chain in the blockchain, right? So there are multiple blocks which record transactions using hashes and information, and then they connect together. Now the other aspect or the feature of blockchain, which I think is really important, that we still think about the Lego block, right? Once you put the Lego blocks together, you can't pull one out without disrupting the other. Right? So again, great way to think about how blockchain works. It's immutable in that once a transaction is recorded, it stays there, and you can see the history of all the blocks that came before and all the blocks that came after. So again, I find it a simple way to think about it. And then I think that the last important thing to consider is the decentralization, in that the way blockchain allows for changes in this, if you visualize this as a chain, right, is that everyone who's participating in that block or the network or the chain needs to agree on the change that's being made. So to that extent, it ensures that there is decentralization and consensus on the decision around what the information is and what the data really is. So the potential for blockchain to really help us, capture data in a much more accurate, authentic, and immutable way are what makes blockchain so interesting.
So if somebody needs to make a change or an edit, or something was discovered in a previous transaction communication that has proved to be inaccurate, so then they can't take out something because it remains in there. You just do an additive and refer back to that specific chain block or whatever. Right?
Absolutely.
Right.
You can see the history of the transaction.
So that builds the trust.
Yes.
And that's a crucial element, right?
Absolutely, you're spot on. So, as we think about the way our world is changing now, we're all, you're in San Diego, I'm here in New York City. We've never met, but we're working together. So this collaboration is only going to increase. And what makes us collaborate? It's the trust in each other that, we are who we are. We are, sharing logical and legitimate credentials, right? So when you have that kind of trust, you can actually collaborate much more effectively. So it's going to really help us, connect more people around the world, identify the best talent. And what I've written about, in the book is really to help shift the narrative around blockchain technology from purely the cryptocurrency narrative. Because, people think blockchain, you think, oh, Bitcoin, that's what blockchain is. But it's not. Bitcoin is one way we've applied blockchain technology, right? There are lots of different applications, and I think it's really important for people to understand and think about those.
So let's talk about where does it go from here? And so we're talking about the future of work, the future of talent and technology, and you're right at that intersection, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, okay. So the future of work, I mean, look what's happening right now with Great Resignation, and it's actually a part of the new industrial revolution.
That's right. That's right. And you mentioned two words in there. I'm going to kind of anchor on them, right? So you talked about what some people have called the Great Resignation, right? And then you talked about also the fact that that the future of work and what that really means for going forward. I think the first part of it is and the Industrial Revolution, right? When you think about what people are calling the Great Resignation, I actually think it's not the Great Resignation. So I'd like to have us all forget about that negative word, which is really pessimistic. I talk about this in the book a little bit. I call it the Great Reckoning because it's actually been a time for many people around the world to reflect, challenge some very core held beliefs about how work should be done, where work should be done, and what people really want in their own work life, right? So people have really had time to reflect, to think about what they really want, to really have a reckoning around themselves and their organizations. So I think I'd like to kind of suggest that we all reframe this as a positive way. It's an inflection point that helps us think about the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also the resignation really is a great hiring opportunity. And again, going back to people finding their capabilities or wanting to focus on what they want to do with their lives, and trying to figure out how they can do that, either working for a company or forming a small business.
That's right. That's right. And it's also, I think made companies realize that, talent is not a function of location. Ambition is not a function of where you live, right? The quality of your output is not a function of where you sit in the office. So I think it's forced companies to rethink some of those things. I'll give you an example, right? In financial services, we have, lots of people who work on, trading desks, right? And the party line always was that you cannot work from home. But, come March 15th of 2020, what happened? The monitors were shipped to, basements in Westport or, in Kentucky, and trading was still continuing. So to that extent, it kind of forced people to really think about, is it security, is it technology, or is it intention? And I think vice versa for employees. I think they realize that, there are certain things that they should be making choices around, and all for the good, because I think it's helped to recalibrate both organizations and talent requirements.
So let's get into this angle of, which is critical, trust. There's so much distrust or disbelief, and trust and verify, that old phrase.
Yes,
it's more meaningful now than ever.
Right.
And so this is what you're talking about now.
That's right. So because yes, and President Reagan talked about your trust but verify, right? And I think that's a great principle for all of us to use in work and life. But I think especially in technology in these virtual worlds, because we're we're increasingly seeing three trends, and one of which I talked about in our last discussion with space exploration, right, and virtual work. But we're also going to see more and more, the effects of quantum computing on machine learning and algorithms and encryption. We're also going to see, what we've started seeing, what is, what has been around for a while, the metaverse, and people have taken reflected on it and what it means, and we're seeing all of that play out. The implications of all of that are that you really need to know who you're engaging with. You need to have clear credentials, not just in terms of identifying each other, but also in terms of skills and capabilities and
Yeah.
outputs as you collaborate.
So is this part of the blockchain thing?
Well, the metaverse, for example, right, is something that's going to make the utility of blockchain more ubiquitous, especially around the validation of identity. And in virtual worlds, or even forgetting about the metaverse for a second, right? As we work more and more virtually, it's really going to be important to be able to use or identify ways to build trust with validated data. And that's where blockchain is really going to become helpful and important for us too.
Yeah, I get it. And so are we talking about a different kind of talent, and where do you find that talent? Because talent in this new world is global. It doesn't have to be down the street.
Absolutely. It really doesn't have to be, they can sit anywhere, as we know. And so what we've seen historically, right, is that, we've looked for people in big cities, or people who can come to offices and work there, or people who, who've been in the same, nation state or geography, right? That's how we've hired, just from a proximity perspective. But the truth is that over the past 20, maybe even 30 years, we have seen so much work being globalized, right? Things are not just getting manufactured overseas; they're getting, X-rays are being read overseas. I mean, the talent can sit anywhere. The quality of output, if managed well, can be as good, right? So I think we've kind of all crossed that Rubicon of understanding that you could find good talent anywhere. But then comes to the next point of, well, then how do you actually operationalize them? How do you sift? You really know what you're getting if you're working with talent that is so dispersed, right? And that's where, again, I believe that the use of technology like blockchain in verifying skills and capabilities will really help us be very, very sure about, what kind of talent we're able to find and who they are and what they bring to the table, which will in turn encourage everyone to actually use more talent irrespective of where they sit. So it's this righteous cycle of goodness, in that we trust more, so we find better talent, so we trust more and we collaborate more, and we do more good for each other.
So one of the things you wrote to me was something about universal talent exchange. Finding the talent, and then you don't have to relocate them, but you have to get them involved internally.
That's right. So the universal talent exchange is something that I've been talking and writing about for a few years now, and I talk about that in the book as well. It's essentially this idea that if we have a platform or a way for people around the world to engage and provide validation of their identity and their skills, we will actually be able to exchange skills and capabilities and tap into all these pockets of expertise around the world, right? So that's that's the underlying premise. When you think about also the fact that increasingly jobs are becoming, we're more complex. So we're disaggregating a particular job into particular skill blocks. Again, you can use the Lego block analogy, right? If you're, somebody as a podcast host or somebody who's writing a book, you don't just write the book or, host the podcast. You kind of have to know a little bit about technology. That's another block, right? You have to know about, expressing your content or asking questions. That's a different skill set, right? So when you disaggregate all those skill sets, you might find that, I can do A, B, and C, but I don't need somebody to produce my show, or I don't need somebody to actually print my book, right? So we can share that work with somebody else. And if we have a way to validate the credentials and the skill sets, we can really do that work anywhere, right? Have anybody do that work for us. And
this is really interesting stuff. And I hope our audience is finding it as stimulating as I'm finding it. Again, I'm not a tech at all, but just a talk show host. But tell me about clients. The last time we talked, you were really excited about space. Okay, and
If you love.
you still are. Yeah. So do you want to go up in a rocket and see what it's like?
I think that ship might have sailed for me. The rocket ship might have sailed. Uh, you know, um, uh, uh, Too old maybe at this point, and maybe not rich enough to buy a seat on that rocket ship anymore. But maybe we can all win the lottery, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is that, but that's just a manifestation of what's going to happen in the world of work, right? I mean, that's just the next iteration of where industry and markets are going, as we've seen in the news. But I and what I am seeing, though, in from a client perspective, as you mentioned, is that more and more companies are, there's this component of their work that is space oriented. It's kind of like in the old days where every company started realizing that they needed to be on the internet, right? There's a part of their business that needed to be able to operate on the World Wide Web back in the day, right? Similarly, we're finding companies like GM are, they're making vehicles that will operate on the moon, right? So we're finding mining companies looking at how they might be able to build capability to mine extraplanetary objects. So I think that's just a normal course of events. But I think what we're seeing with organizations who aren't quite there or thinking about that, and this is across every sector in the work that we see, people are very focused upon understanding how they can tap into this talent that sits anywhere, right? Understanding how they might really be able to find the best talent, because that's what they care about, and they're all competing for these people who have gone through the great reckoning, right? The good skills are hard to find. People who can have flexible skills and deal with ambiguity are hard to find, and everybody needs those skill sets. So I think you're definitely seeing a trend there.
We are pleased to welcome Adamo Education as a proud sponsor of Global TV Talk Show.
The concept of a micro school is the reimagining of the one-room schoolhouse. My name is Tamara Becker. I'm the president and CEO of Adamo Education. The micro school concept really does not just lend itself to the personalization and the customization of learning, but also the social development and fostering that sense of love for learning. Unlike what we see in traditional brick and mortar schools, we have multiple grade levels in the same learning space. Students can be enriched by the socialization that they get, as well as the academic support from peers. What differentiates Adamo is the fact that we are taking the best pieces of brick and mortar, of digital, and then at-home learning. Students here can come 5 days a week. They can come 4 hours a day. It will really just depend on what is best for the student and for the parent. To enroll, just reach out via phone, text, or email, and we'll have that personalized conversation, and we'll be able to get you all set. Check us out at adamoeducation.org.
Hi, this is Ed, and I thank you for tuning in to Global TV Talk Show, a unit on globalbusinessnews.net. We broadcast to the world, as you know by now. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that our programs are advertising supported. We're grateful for co-sponsors, advertisers. They have a marketing budget coupled with a strong desire to be associated with our top quality program. And of course, I'm grateful. Thank you. So for the next few minutes, you're going to see some commercials. It's mostly very low key, and our prices are very, very reasonable. Our exposure for the advertisers go 12 months and beyond. Some of our advertisers have been with us since March, April of 2020. And Google Analytics has tracked over 125,000 what they call audience page views, which means you looking at this page, that's a page view. Now, if you happen to go to one of our other shows or to our radio broadcasts or to our newspaper or magazine, those become additional page views as measured by Google Analytics. And so when they say 125,000 since spring of 2020 up through Labor Day, a month ago, that's pretty good numbers. And the past 30 days, Google Analytics has measured just under 6,000 audience page views. And that, according to them, is a 42% increase in audience participation over the month of August. So thank you very much. Well, here's our advertisers, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes or so, and we'll proceed with this interesting conversation. Thank you.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Hi, I'm Sergey Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we are researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
Well, this has really been a high-spirited and fast conversation. I just want to ask about how can people like me who are not tech-oriented can succeed in this new world? I mean, I guess I can just hire the right people and get out of their way.
Yeah, this is true. Now we can always, hire people, right? But I think the truth is that it's almost like a language. I think about this, and I talk to my clients and companies and business leaders I work with. Think of it as a language, right? Now you don't maybe need to be, you maybe don't need to write poetry in every language, but if you understand it and you have, conversational ability, it enriches your life. You understand so many more things about, the cuisine. So I kind of use that analogy. And I think the language of technology is similar in that, you still have very deep technologists and experts, but, the regular person, a person like me who doesn't necessarily, build quantum computers, it's good to know how technology works and what it can do for us, because I think the truth is, Ed, over the past couple of decades, we have seen a big shift in what shapes business strategy. So in the old days, CEOs used to sit down, come up with their business strategy and their plan, and then say, well, now let's figure out what technology is going to help us enable it. Things have changed very significantly. That's kind of been flipped, right? It's really more about what can technology do and how do I shape my business strategy or my startup or my company idea around the possibilities of technology. So complete pivot. So for that reason, I think all of us, need to just learn a few phrases, at least, to go back to the language analogy, listen for technology and try and look for ways in which we can absorb it without having to be, very, very deeply technical. And that's a big part of why, I wrote the book too, because I think it's really important for people to understand what blockchain technology can do, the potential, and where this can take us if we all participate.
So we have about 5-6 minutes. So in the book, you probably have 1 or 2 chapters out of all the chapters, 1 or 2 that you really like, that you really got into in the development of it, in the development of the book. Which 1 or 2 chapters do you love the most?
Oh, that's a great question. And, let me think about it for a second, right?
Yeah.
I think I have to say maybe there's maybe the first chapter, because I lay down the introduction a little bit, and what I'm doing, I say maybe the first and the third chapter. So I'll tell you what. So the first chapter, I do talk a little bit about my own journey, growing up in India, what influenced me to write the book, and how I really see this trajectory, the arc of our destiny as a global community changing, right? Much like it did for my parents and maybe yours and, all of us, right? So I think that it's a good chapter to read if you're reading one chapter in the book, because it sets the stage. And I think the third chapter, which is about the Universal Talent Exchange, explores this idea and lays it out a little bit more. Because my goal with the Universal Talent Exchange, and the reason I wrote the book, is I'm hoping we can have communities all around the world really coming together to build these consortiums of trust, so that whether it's in Appalachia or in sub-Saharan Africa or in some village in India, we are able to validate skills and find these great people. And in that chapter, I also tell the story of one of my classmates from grad school, and the journey that people have to take to get to exam theaters or to jobs are very challenging. And I think it was written with the need to remind myself and everybody else that the people sometimes have to travel along to bring their talent to the table, and if we can just make that journey easier for them, we would all benefit from their talent and vice versa.
So we're talking with Elizebeth Varghese, and as you could see on the screen, her name is spelled out. So go check out her LinkedIn profile and make a connection and learn, just like I'm learning here. This is like a whole MBA course. Wow.
Well, thank you so much, Ed. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.